The first Democratic debate is coming up in just 48 hours from now. It's clear that one of the central axes of debate in the Democratic Party in this election is criminal justice, policy, and reform. There's Senator Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor, Cory Booker's call for large-scale clemency for nonviolent drug-related offenses, and most recently, Mayor Pete Buttigieg facing heated criticism from black residents of his own city of South Bend for the oversight of that city's police department, whose officer shot and killed a black man in that city on June 16th. The Democratic Party is right now very publicly wrestling with how to advance racial justice and fuse together a strong multiracial coalition in the era of Donald Trump and into the teeth of acute white backlash. Joining me now, Bryan Stevenson, Executive Director of the Equal Justice Initiative, subject of the new HBO documentary True Justice, Bryan Stevenson's Fight for Equality, which debuts on HBO on Wednesday. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
You know, I've been wanting to talk to you as I've watched the Democratic primary unfold, as someone who has worked in the criminal justice system for decades now. Where you see us at this moment, because it feels like there has been in many ways a lot of progress, politically, substantively, even if you look at the numbers of just incarceration. But you're someone who's just watched the trajectory of the system grind on and unfold for so many years. Where do you see us now?
We have made progress. There are bans on mandatory life without parole sentences for children that didn't exist. We have seen some leveling of the prison population. There is a movement. There's some bipartisan support for bringing down the prison population, but we still have so much work to do. We're still the nation with the highest rate of incarceration in the world. We still have excessive punishment. We still treat drug offenders and people drug dependent as criminals instead of seeing that as a health problem. And what we don't realize is that criminal justice policy in this country is driven by states. The Congress can't fix this problem. It has to be done state by state by state. And there are a lot of states that have done nothing to substantially reform their system. So we're still spending $80 billion a year on jails and prisons. We still put too many people in jails and prisons who are not a threat to public safety. And we still have this horrific problem of error, wrongful convictions, and I continue to believe that our system still treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. And that's a crisis that we need to address.
There's an incredible moment for the documentary that sort of hits on this point in which someone's talking about his own conviction and what the police officer said to him when faced with the possibility he didn't do the thing that he was accused of doing. Take a listen.
I asked him again for the 51st time, why am I being arrested? He said, you want to know why we arresting you? He said, you robbed a restaurant manager and you killed him. I said, you got the wrong person. I ain't done none of that. He said, let me tell you something right now. I don't care whether you did it or didn't do it. There's 5 things that are going to convict you. He said, number 1, you black. Number 2, a white man is going to say you shot him. Number 3, you're going to have a white prosecutor. Number 4, you're going to have a white judge. And number 5, you're going to have an all-white jury. And he said, do you know what that spells? Conviction.
Is that still as true in the regions of the country that you work in as it was when he was being told that?
Oh, I think it absolutely is. And I don't think it's regional. I think all over this country, we tolerate errors. We accept these tragic mistakes. Anthony Ray Hinton was the 152nd person to be proved innocent after being sentenced to death. We're now at 160. That means for every 10 people we've executed in this country, we've now identified 1 innocent person on death row. It's a shocking rate of error. If you went to a supermarket,
that is a shocking rate of error.
If you went to the store and somebody said 1 out of 10 apples will kill you if you touch it, nobody would sell apples. We would not tolerate.
Or planes? Can you imagine if airplanes did that?
Absolutely. And yet, we still have all of these states that are actively trying to execute people, and I don't think it has registered the way it needs to. And there's not a region in this country that can claim that they have no innocent people in jails and prisons. When you have a system that immunizes police and prosecutors and judges so that they aren't motivated to be accountable, you don't provide people the resources they need to defend themselves, you tolerate bias and discrimination, you politicize these systems, you're going to have the kinds of mistakes that Mr. Hinton's case reflects. And it's why I've argued that the death penalty isn't about whether people deserve to die for the crimes they've committed. It's really about, do we deserve to kill when we tolerate this kind of error and misconduct? And I just still think we haven't really turned around on that kind of punishment preoccupation.
You know, one of the sort of main theories of a lot of your work, and particularly in Just Mercy, your book, is about the sort of continuity between the system of slavery and then apartheid Jim Crow and the modern criminal justice system, and the sort of continuities there. And I guess I wonder, you have this incredible memorial to victims of lynching that has been widely celebrated, that I've been wanting to go to very badly. How much does the reckoning with history, how much is that a necessary precondition to what we do now? I
think it's a critical precondition. The United States Supreme Court legitimated slavery by saying that black people are an inferior race. They're 3/5 human. After the Civil War, they then struck down all the laws that Congress passed that would have allowed black people to vote, that would have protected them.
And there were many.
And there were
lest that be forgotten to history
exactly.
as well.
They struck down the Ku Klux Klan Act, which would have allowed federal prosecutors to keep black people from being lynched by the thousands. And yet the court has never really felt any need to reckon with those legal rulings that created 100 years of racial segregation. We celebrate Brown and we celebrate Loving, these moments in the court's history when they did the right thing, but then they retreat to this tolerance. And if that's our history, we're not going to have a justice system that is accountable, that is fair, that is reliable. So yeah, I think the history part is critical. I don't think we can get to the kind of justice we want until we talk more honestly about the native genocide, about slavery, about lynching, about segregation, about our tolerance of racial bigotry.
Bryan Stevenson, thank you so much for coming by. The film is Wednesday night on HBO. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.